Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, April 11th, 2024 South Haven Planning Commission Workshop. I'll call this workshop to order. And Luke, if you'd call the roll.
Clark Gruber.
Here.
Larry Heinig.
Here.
Eddie Polk.
Here.
Michael Neese.
Here.
Amy Nichols.
Here.
Bob Sherman.
Here.
Mary Hosley.
Here.
Janice Varney.
Here.
Tim Stegman.
Here. And Kelly, if you'd give us a brief outline of what we're going to do this evening.
Sure. Tonight, we are planning to discuss the zoning ordinance comprehensive update as well as the master plan update. We have Brad Coderba from Williams & Works here for the zoning ordinance, and Marcy Hamilton is here from the Southwest Michigan Planning Commission for the master plan. We did plan to discuss the zoning ordinance first, if that's all right with you, Mr. Chairman. If you'd like to do things in a different order, that will be fine. This is a workshop, so things are fairly informal. I was planning to pretty quickly turn it over to Brad to lead the discussion on the zoning ordinance. We plan to cover the topics that were provided to you in the memo from Williams & Works, and then kind of go over some next steps. We can take public comment at your discretion, and I think that covers it.
All right. Brad, start us off with the lot coverage.
Let's talk lot coverage. Is this?
Yep.
Okay, let's talk lot coverage. Okay, so last time we were here, initially it was proposed that the R1A district would be 40%, or that's what it's at now. We adjusted that down to 35%. The R1B was at 35%. We adjusted that down to 30%. So the reasoning behind that is because we had a discussion about the amount of overhang and measuring from the drip line of the overhang or measuring to the foundation. We proposed to measure from the foundation because it's a little easier to do for varying sizes of eaves. Typically they're about 18 to a 24-inch maximum that you can see. They obviously could vary from that as well, but those are the pretty common ones that you see on there. So the intention of lowering it down, those percentages, was to provide that extra square footage to it overall. So what it's doing is it's shrinking the house size down. In addition, there are other things that we have been discussing that we are not including as lot coverage in the proposed zoning, such as decks that some people wanted to do. If that's something that the Planning Commission would like to continue doing, it's the way it's done now, then that's fine. The only thing that will do, and keep in mind, is continually shrink the house down, because as we measure for the total lot coverage on the lot, and a deck would be covered as a portion of that, it would have, the house would have to be smaller. So a new build, somebody would have to either, max out the size of the house that they can build on, or with an accessory structure, and then sacrifice the deck, or make the compensation. So do you have any questions specifically on the lot coverage that we discussed, or that I had mentioned?
I don't.
I just want to clarify, when you're talking about the deck, were you referring to the roofed deck?
No, this is
okay.
this is an uncovered deck, and
Yes, okay.
anything that's covered, we propose to be included as
Okay.
as covered through
I just wanted to
coverage.
clarify that.
Correct. And the reasoning we didn't include it in lot coverage at this time is because, for the most part, they are, they may not be like gravel permeable, but they are not waterproof. So, and it's typically open dirt or lawn underneath them. And when we proposed doing a minimum green space allotment on there also, again, concentration was to try and get as much drainage naturally into the ground as possible. And if water can get through a deck naturally, unlike a patio or something like that, or anything that's roofed, that's why we chose to go with the not included in the coverage at this proposed.
My question could just
Hey,
be.
hang on. Is that it, Janet?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, Tim. This could be a reading comprehension problem, but I think I just heard you say, which was the direction I thought we were going, it would encourage smaller homes.
Correct, and that's what this would propose, the shrink.
And yet, I read in your text here that the new zoning ordinance would allow for a slightly larger building footprint.
If you measure, it depends. So like, I have the calculations worked out, and we can walk through those if you would like to.
I don't need that, Brad, I just need to understand if the intent is, do
The
we
intent
believe that this
is-
will lead to smaller homes being built?
It would lead to a small, because what we're doing now is we're measuring to the drip line of that. If they're gonna maintain an eave, and we wanna measure from the foundation, they're gonna have to shrink that in.
All right. Understood, thank you.
So I have an example that I was involved, a resident asked me to look at it, I did, at 717 Kalamazoo. And that was coming in at 48% lot coverage with the eaves not having been included. And I know they shrunk the garage a smidge, but, you know, the current lot coverage does include the decks. So if you're removing the deck, you are actually allowing a larger footprint.
Correct.
And so you're not actually getting a smaller footprint. And the eaves that I calculated on that 717 Kalamazoo home, you know, there were 312 square feet added on from the eaves in addition to the home, and there was 104 square feet added onto the garage, which ultimately had to be made smaller. But you had indicated in the memo that it's about 100 square feet, but I'm getting 3 times that. And that gets more significant. I am concerned that a 5% decrease, especially now we're not going to count the deck,
It would still
It's-
count towards the setback though, wouldn't it?
Correct.
but it's lot coverage. So, and again, I'm getting to Mike's point that we're trying not to have the whole house be on the lot. We've seen that in recent years, and those homes are now up for sale for millions, over $1 million. And
But they wouldn't be able to add a deck to the house.
well, under the current, it doesn't count towards lot coverage, but it would count towards setback.
Yeah.
I understand that, but depending on the lot, that may or may not make an impact. I was looking at other ordinances, and in Grand Haven Township, they actually, for lot coverage, look at the total square footage of impervious surface, not just the house. So that would be pool, sidewalks, driveways, and I know there was a discussion, and pools were not added, and I was disappointed to see that not included in lot coverage, because we have a known issue with surface water runoff and the negative impact on neighbors from that. It's rampant throughout the city with our soil composition. It therefore goes right back to the point that I'm concerned a 5% decrease in lot coverage if all you are counting is the home and any accessory dwelling unit. You may still have a larger footprint than you currently could have under the way it's measured now with the eaves, because I get 3 times as much or more square feet for, that now is not being counted towards lot coverage than what was calculated and presented in the memo. So I'm looking at a home that was maximum lot coverage.
What was the address on it again?
717 Kalamazoo. I was originally contacted because of how close it was to the sidewalk, but the setbacks were fine. And so, and I think they may have actually added a fair amount of impervious ground cover. I think that the goal is to allow people to do what they want on their property without it negatively affecting neighbors and being commensurate with the homes that we have now. And I am very concerned that 5% decrease, although it sounds like a lot, is not that much when you look at what the footprint would be if eaves were included, and that's not even counting an uncovered deck.
So what did the person at 717 request you help them with?
No, it was a concerned
Oh,
resident.
someone else was concerned. Oh, okay. And then staff went and did that calculation, or?
I went and looked at the home, and then I looked at the plans, and then I did
Oh.
the calculation and identified that it was over, and then they worked with the builder, homeowner,
Okay.
to ratchet it back to be 39.9% lot coverage.
Okay.
Anyone else? No? This side's beating you guys. They ask more questions. All right. I think that's it right now.
I guess we're looking for some consensus on this topic because right now it's written one way. We're hearing from this side of the table that we'd like to see some changes, and we're hearing not as much from this side of the table. So I guess what I need to move forward is to know if
I
there's.
think to put this one to bed, you need to do a couple drawings, some examples.
Couple drawings.
Here's a lot, here's proposed, here's the distances. How far could you take it?
Okay. Okay.
A visual.
All right, we can do a visual.
Where's my whiteboard, by the way?
Your whiteboard?
I used to have a big whiteboard I ordered.
I believe that's in the hallway
Okay.
in the building. It's not gone.
You know where it is in case we want to drag it in here and
Yes,
put a marker to it? Okay.
yes, it's available.
All right. So I think if you do that, do like a status quo control,
Okay,
and then how far can you take this ordinance? And then we'll look at it from there. Pretty simple, right? Okay. Accessory buildings, number 2.
So accessory buildings, again, we would include in the lot coverage, so that would be a component of it. We left the height the same as what it had been at a max peak at 16 feet. The wall itself cannot be higher than 14. And what we did this time around was we inserted a requirement that it be similarly designed to what the existing home is. This prevents people from building garages with, let's say, a flat roof, and they have, a large peak, home, an older home that it just doesn't match up. So we decided to provide that provision in there to create a more consistent and, it would fit into the neighborhood better.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a question, excuse me, I have a question about the statement that I am fearful is just so vague as to be just going to lead to problems. And the statement is that the buildings be designed to be compatible in appearance with the principal structure and consistent with the appearance of other buildings in the same zoning district. So as an example, my home happens to have a mansard-style roof. I'm guessing people know what that looks like. I have an accessory building. It doesn't have a mansard-style roof.
Well, I'm gonna have to change that.
Yeah, so I'm non-conforming, but if that accessory building was built today, would it need to have a mansard-style roof? And then consistent with the appearance of other buildings in the same zoning district? It just seems so vague and undefined, ill-defined, that it's just gonna lead to problems in trying to get people to comply with that.
I think it was, maybe 3 years ago, our planning magazine had an article about Mackinac Island and its requirements, and I don't know if we can find that article, but it dealt with that, and that's about the only place I know of that really strictly adheres to that.
You're referring probably to those historic homes on
Yeah.
the west side of the island as you approach the island?
Somebody was redoing their garage and tried to do some minor modification, and they just hammered them.
Yeah.
They had to rip it all back apart and rebuild it like it was.
That could be part of the historical district that
Probably
they have
so.
to adhere to.
That's the only one I know that's had success with some kind of description, like matching that
Would this is,
upheld.
and again, this might be a very naive question, but as written here, would this then not allow a storage shed that somebody bought at Menards to put in their yard?
No, not necessarily.
That wouldn't be considered an accessory.
It's accessory, but it's not on the
Okay.
same level as what you would consider a
Okay.
garage or.
So we're looking at it somewhat more,
Significant, yeah.
and was there any forethought of, with the trend with those accessory buildings becoming ADUs? Was that being thought about?
This is probably
mean-
foundation versus no foundation, right?
For measurements,
The accessory building.
it would be measured, the same as what the whole lot would be.
Well, what I'm saying is, the building Mike's talking about gets delivered by a truck and
Just dropped on the
slides
ground,
off,
right.
and it's really not attached to the ground.
Right, it's not as significant, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may, also, this provision helps with shipping containers that members of the public want to use as accessory structures. This helps us require that shipping containers be modified to
Match the-
appear residential.
I like that.
There might be a boat in Baltimore where you could get some shipping containers at a discounted price, too.
They don't have any with Mansfield roofs, so it's,
True enough.
You could have it, it match your house.
But I guess what's the objective? Do we really think that's enforceable, or do we think folks can comply with that without lots of questions and uncertainty?
Some of my client communities do have these provisions in their ordinance. Grand Rapids does have a provision like this in their ordinance. They do actually go more stringent on it. They actually measure the pitch of the roof on their structures, in addition to max lot coverage, materials, design of the building, things like that. They do all that. This was left a little more vague, as you say, on that, with intentions to try and make it consistent with the surrounding area without permitting something like Kelly said, or something. You've seen homes with those, a garage that was attached later on that just doesn't match the overall.
Have they ever been challenged?
No,
No.
that I'm not aware of any challenges to it.
Like, I know the only one I know that's had success is Mackinac Island.
and what
In the
Jan said,
enforcement of that language.
I've seen it, where there's historical districts as well. The city I moved from, Marblehead.
Or Saugatuck, and I think it has to do more with the historical district, and then it gets really right down to, I mean, I'm okay with the statement, but I can see where it potentially could have, an issue, but if we're not hearing a lot of that, and that's going before, then we probably could be okay, but it's something to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I think there was just a recent construction, the one that went on the market on Maple. Doesn't that have, is that both flat roof house and garage, or? No, I think the roof is pitched, isn't it? And the garage is flat?
The garage is a flat roof. It does match the design of the home. It's that kind of newer Scandinavian design it's being called. And so the design of the site was compatible with itself, if you will. The flat roof of the garage, whether or not is compatible with the neighborhood, I suppose could be left to interpretation.
And that's my concern, because we have that example, we have that example. And so, does it have to get to the granularity of the roof? Is it actually less vague if it just says commensurate with the house and neighborhood?
Is that going to put it on Kelly or somebody on city staff to decide that, yes, this is appropriate and can?
Correct.
Right.
But it,
I'm not
it's
sure
that
that's a
way
good
now.
idea.
I think it just says compatible. I mean, roof was an example
Right, exactly. That's not written in.
written there.
That was
And
just an
definitely the
example
one
of
we're
something.
talking about looks at briefly, like they look like the exact same building and style. And I would consider those similar.
Well, I,
Nothing like the neighborhood, but they're both exactly the same.
Right.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
I think where it gets interesting to me is what detail do we look at here? I mean, I see a lot of homes in South Haven whose accessory unit has different vinyl siding than the house has, a different color. Would that be a no-go, right?
A different color?
A different color?
I mean, if it were a historic district, it sure would.
Yeah, I know, but by this,
By this, it would, again, it's up to the sole discretion of the person enforcing it, so.
And I would anticipate, to
Right.
date, we've interpreted much more leniently because the provisions are vague now, and so it's been more about, is it residential in character versus is it commercial or is it industrial? In the case of a shipping container, it's very industrial. And so it's not in character with a residential neighborhood here. And so if someone wants to place that as an accessory structure, as we've seen, we've asked them to modify them to make them appear residential, to be placed in a residential neighborhood.
I love the intent.
I was just going to say, I love that you listened and tried to make it in character with the neighborhood, which I think I've heard from Mike for, I don't know, 3 years now straight, maybe. But it's also going to be a little harder to interpret. And I don't know where the line, I don't know how to fix it, and I don't know where the line is, but I appreciate the effort, but I think it's going to be hard to interpret.
Well, it sounds like we're coming back on lot coverage again, so if you all have suggested edits for language there, then I guess we can consider that as well.
Okay. Anything else before we move on? Right. RVs.
Okay, RVs contain provisions for the storage and then those residing in them temporarily. What we're writing in here, what we're proposing is that they're limited occupancy of no more than 14 days, and that any storage requirement and durations, et cetera, are also that. So what we're trying to do again is get the RVs off the yard for people who store them there year-round. Or some people even stay inside of them. So,
Oh, I'm not sure, is your mic back on?
oh, Mike is on.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I gotta get really close to this.
The other one might be better, Brad.
Or use both stereo.
Put it in my mouth. Is that better? Yeah, there we
So,
go.
yes.
See, that one's much better. So, yeah, the intent was, what's that?
Griffin wore the other one out.
He probably did.
Oh, Griffin's fault.
Yes, the intent is to try and, again, control the amount of RVs being stored in the community.
Any questions?
And
Comments?
the storage requirement, I think, refers only to the owner's property. I mean, a
Correct.
RV could be parked on North Shore Drive or Packard Park or anyplace else.
I believe
for-
there is a regulation and something in the the police power
Is there
ordinance
something
that
that would
prevents that.
prevent
Not
that?
overnight,
Yeah.
Not overnight?
not overnight.
On the street? Well, there's certainly,
Y'all need to
that's
come to
going on, I
prohibiting.
can assure you,
Yeah.
yeah. In fact, I think I inquired from the police department because there was one on North Shore Drive, right in front of Packard Park, last summer for multiple days, and I was told, no, it's fine, that's a legal parking spot, and nothing would be done. Is that not correct? Kelly, do you know?
I don't remember off the top of my head, and so I don't want to speak incorrectly about
Okay,
that. That's
okay.
something that we can look up and find the correct language about that
Okay.
for you,
Could
though.
be different than the Kids Corner, because I know that was
Yes.
a heated debate, and
Yes.
Very much so.
So it could be different over there than it is over here, I don't know.
Right.
Different in terms of enforcement, you mean?
Or
No.
language even, maybe
Different
it's allowed
language.
overnight over there, but not here.
So I,
Because they wanted the cars going down Monroe Boulevard to be able to see the lake, and they can't look over the motorhomes.
right,
Okay.
they had more strict restrictions on Monroe Boulevard by Kids Corner than they might have on North Shore Drive.
Okay, didn't realize that.
I can't recall off the top of my head either.
Again, I think this is a necessary change, and I think it's an important change. I don't want to get too specific because it's still an issue, but in my neighborhood, there is an RV that they were told could not be parked where they parked it in their driveway. So they mowed a spot right next to their house, moved it right next to their house within 3 feet of the neighboring house and threw a tarp over it and said, there, that'll work. So we now have an RV sitting in the middle of the neighborhood permanently. I mean, it moves out when they take it on the road, but it is, they're 365. So I like the.
Well, in that part of the ordinance has not changed. You can store up to one in your rear side yard as long as you meet setback requirements and it's an operable vehicle. That is permitted. What we don't permit is anything being stored in the front yard at all.
Okay.
Side yards are okay.
Side yards are okay. They have to be, I believe, screened and separated from the property line.
Okay. I also want to put in a plug for the last sentence here. I think you should probably follow staff's suggestion that we do include a provision that prohibits the use and storage of RVDs on STR properties.
Business properties, maybe not personal properties. Because someone could have a personal, let's say they do 4 weeks, a whole month of June, and then they live there the rest of the time, and their friends come for a week. Or grandparents, and their grandparents want to stay in the RV in the parking, or in the driveway.
But they're not paying, right? Maybe that's the difference, too.
Well, I mean, it says STR, if there's a personal STR. Yeah, hopefully they're not doing that. The parents raised them for many years. You know, that's just an example. But, you know, I do know people with that kind of situation. But definitely a business, there would be no reason because it's an investment property.
I think the goal would be such that it's not being used during the short-term rental period.
Yeah, either that or, I mean, can be talked about at another time, because the other thing that we could do is adjust the occupancy allowance for that STR that takes into account any extra residents that may be staying in an RV.
I would just think it would be better just to say business short-term rental properties.
If we didn't have 75 personals, I would agree.
I think there's 100.
I think there's 100, yeah. But I suspect most of those personals are actually business STRs.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Could I ask a few questions about the table with the eliminations? Just
What are you referring to?
the next page, he had provided a table with,
Okay.
Yeah, I believe
Page
Andy
4.
provided a
Garrison,
table
and
of
thank you,
old
yes.
and new. Yep.
thank you very much. There's a couple things that were removed that are not on the table, like the conflict of interest and the moratorium. And I was just wondering, why, and that can be discussed at another time when we're going through and explaining why things were eliminated, but I noticed that those were not included.
Was a conflict of interest removed?
It may have been removed out of the text. It's in the act, and it's probably also in your bylaws.
Well, so it may be in our bylaws, but the conflict of interest in the planning, in our zoning ordinance applied more than just to the planning commissioners. applied to the city council. It was
Okay.
more broad and was not adequately covered in other sections, I believe,
Okay.
is why I raised that as a concern.
Okay.
And the city has used the moratorium a handful of times,
Yep.
so.
According to the Michigan marijuana law, what is, remind me again the official spelling?
They use an H.
Is
Instead of J.
the Marihu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the way it was put into the act.
All right.
Actually, so that reminded me, thank you, Chair. And those last several of the single digits on page 3 of your submission, page 6 of the agenda packet. I mean, those are not really the sections in the current zoning ordinance, and I don't believe the marijuana business overlay actually has a section. I think it was included as part of other aspects. So if you could just look at that on any revision to that table, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Go ahead, Kelly.
I wanted I didn't quite catch that. I'm seeing the marijuana overlay in the new section 1703. So I wasn't sure I understood that one.
In the
Sorry.
original, in the current zoning ordinance.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thank
Sorry.
you.
Okay, so that's the first part we worked through. And then what do we go to Marcy now?
Well, Brad, if you can talk a little bit about what you see as next steps, we'll come back next month, right?
Correct, yeah. Andy will get all of comments from tonight. He'll review the video in addition to that. But at this point, we're kind of wrapping up with this item, and what we'll end up doing is representing to you any edits that we had to make over the last few weeks. And then hopefully we can move forward from there and work towards a public hearing.
So if you all have major feedback, questions, or concerns that haven't been addressed to date, I would say, don't wait. Now's the time. Send that feedback to us. Send it to me. I'll share it with Brad and Andy. We need to know. We need to know what you're thinking and what other items need to be
But
discussed.
we're still waiting for, if you remember the last meeting, you're gonna come in and say, here's what we changed, why we changed it. We're still waiting for that big announcement.
Okay, and I think maybe there was a misunderstanding there that Andy thought he was providing you with the table and didn't realize that you wanted more of a presentation on that, and I'm not sure I understood that either, so I apologize for that. And that is something that we can bring to the next meeting.
Okay.
Chairman? So I'm guessing Brad will be leaving possibly, so he can get
Yes.
home earlier. We have residents in the audience. We didn't take comment. Might we take comment between the two sessions so that Brad could hear any comments if anyone has it, and Marcy could hear comments? So there would just be one comment period?
We can, usually I don't with the workshops, but if you'd like to, does anybody like to speak on what Brad reviewed with us? No? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Brad. Thanks for coming in this afternoon.
Thanks, Brad.
Yes, thank you.
You can too, for sure.
Drive safely.
Does anybody need a break before we go to the next
No.
speaker? No?
Thanks, Brad. Thank you.
Drive safe.
Okay, Kelly, why don't you do the next introduction?
All right, so next up, we've got Marcy Hamilton from the Southwest Michigan Planning Commission. I think most of you met Marcy in March when she came to kick off the master plan update. And in your packet for this evening, you should have found a chapter with some demographic data and a coastal resiliency chapter. Am I saying that correctly? Yes, I am. And a draft of a community survey that we'd like to discuss and get some input on. And so I will work on putting the demographic data up on the screen. And I think Marcy will come on up to the podium, and if you're all ready, we'll just start to get some feedback on the text.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Kelly something before we begin?
Sure.
What's your objective for this? I mean, you ask us to review the 2018,
Yes,
so there's 91 pages of reading. What are we going to do with that?
the 2018 master plan?
Yes.
Yes, so the 2018 master plan is the base. That is the plan that we're working from. And what we're doing now is updating that plan.
Amending the plan.
We are not throwing that plan out. There was a considerable amount of work and effort that went into that plan. We still consider that plan to be relevant. And what we're doing with this process is refreshing it. And, you know, if there are goals and objectives that need to be modified, there's data that needs to be updated, we'll do those things. We know that we want to focus on coastal resiliency, things that we've talked about before. We do have the Coastal Communities Grant, so we talked about using the coastal lens to drive this update, and we know we want to talk about housing, and there may be some other things along the way, but we want to use that coastal resiliency to keep our scope a little bit more narrow, just to ensure that we meet the deadlines associated with the grant, and to ensure that we don't reinvent the wheel on this plan that we still consider to be quite relevant.
Thank you.
All right, is this on? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, good, all right. So, yeah, so obviously with the demographic data, we have new census data, so there's that need to update that chapter, or it was actually kind of in the appendix. So that's, you know, I don't know if there's much discussion on that or questions. It's data, it's what it is. We did find one mistake in there. Let's see, what table is it? It is the table that has the housing or the building permits. And I guess the table in the 2018 plan
Page
was not correct.
13?
Huh?
Page 13?
Table 8 on page 13.
So that was not correct in the 2018 plan for those years where it lists that there was zero building permits. So we're working to get that data from the city, and we'll get that corrected in this version of the plan. But does anybody have any other questions or thoughts when you come?
I
Yeah,
do.
go ahead.
Just some explanation, some clarity for me on what the data means. I'm looking, for instance, on page, I guess it's page 12. When we talk about number of households for the city, adjacent communities in Van Buren County, how are you coming up with that household numbers? Are you counting the number of residential structures? Are you, or is that's strictly from the census data, I'm supposing?
Let's see, I don't
You're on 12 of the packet, Mike?
12 of 38, it says?
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So 6. Marcy,
So 6,
on
okay.
that
I'm
one.
sorry.
Okay.
That's okay.
What's the difference between a household and a housing unit, right? Is that what
I
you're-
would not count a unit that's being used for an STR permanently as a residential property. I mean, when we're looking to do city planning, and we're talking about the character of a neighborhood, we can't count every structure that has bedrooms as a housing, as the same thing. So I would like to see the discrimination of that says, you know, when I do my calculations of what our density is, for instance, if I'm looking for a ratio, I subtract those 497, because those aren't residences. Families don't live there.
Okay. So you're right, so these numbers coming from the census do not take that into account. And so we could, if we have the numbers, if the city provides us with the numbers of,
Can do that.
we can add language into the,
I think just the discrimination between the data, another data point that would help
Sure.
separate that out so that we know truly which of those are housing structures and which are being used for commercial purposes.
okay.
What I find helpful is there's 470 non-exempt. There's like 773 business STRs total, at least as of January 4th, 2024. And I know the census data does have information about occupied, unoccupied, and I believe the STR's seasonal homes fall into the,
They should.
they do. The way it breaks out, it seems like they do. And that's in the census data information. What I would find helpful and in that, and also just for clarification, so table 6 is number of persons and it's table 7 is the number of households. And I know there is a lot of information in the 2024 STR snapshot report that's in the January 16th, 2024 City Council agenda packet
Okay.
that provides that. I was going to ask a couple questions about the table that you started out with on page 13. There was construction of a couple apartment buildings. The Hale Building at 255 Center, I think, finalized in 2021. And I didn't understand why that wasn't in the multifamily column. And is that, and maybe that's in the, maybe it's recorded as 2019. Maybe it's when the building permit issued, I don't know. And there's also the one at 335 Center, which was finalized in 2022. And I was just curious, what are the 5 for the multifamily for 2023?
So I'll have to go back and check with the building department. We just got this table, we just updated what was in there, so we don't have the data behind it. We got it from the city. And like I said, we're trying to already correct some of the issues in the earlier data. But we could go and figure out what those 5 are and add some narrative around that, if that's helpful.
My best guess on the 23, Mary, is the townhomes at the Harbor Club. We can double check though.
Okay. So this is when the building permits were actually issued, not when
Yes.
things were constructed. And what I, for the numbers for the STR report, I've raised this to the city before. So for the new builds, they actually look at whether a zoning permit or building permit has been issued. It doesn't look at occupancy. And if you're looking at the number of dwellings, I think we really need to look at occupancy being finalized, not just permits being issued. And I can resend that information that I had gone through.
That really was in the sentiment of what I was trying to get at, because that also goes back to table 6. When we show number of persons per household at 1.94 in 2020, that's certainly not true in July. We're probably closer to 6 people per household. So again, I would like to see that data separated out in terms of, I think, is it Grand Haven Township actually certifies that that structure is being used as a home as opposed to a rental, or a short-term rental.
Okay.
And-
Well, if we can get that report, we can add some of that in here, for sure.
And just looking at my notes, I actually did put it down. So I got 2,642 dwelling units as of 1/30. Wait. No, that would be this year. Of 12/31/2023. That's the 2,560 is the base from the 2020 census, plus 104 new builds that had been finalized, less 22 demolitions in that time period. And what I would like to see, if possible, with these numbers, is looking at impacts from the STRs to address the concerns that we've been grappling with over the last few years. I think it would help to have that updated in the master plan.
Sure. And maybe this is something too that Ryan can weigh in on also, is this part of
Yes, we
his,
can talk about that
okay,
with Ryan.
with Ryan Kilpatrick, who's
Kilpatrick.
gonna kind of focus on the housing stuff. So we'll get the data in here, and then he can kind of help with more of the impacts and policies and stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and that's something that the city council is also working on, so I think the city council could provide some guidance.
Okay, perfect. Great, thank you very much for that.
So when we're reading through this, a household is an occupied dwelling unit, correct? And then a housing unit is just a vacant or occupied, right?
An available dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the issue, and I wouldn't want to gum it up too much, so I won't, but to give us a sense, if this is for a master plan and we're trying to envision what this city looks like in 5 years, then we need to be able to separate out the difference between a single-family residence and a building that's been built to be a short-term rental. That's two terribly different characteristics of a neighborhood. So I'm not saying which one's right, but we need to have the objective data to make that decision. You know, this is, to me, it's a continuing concern. Even in our annual report that we do for the city, we say, well, we built 24 new residences this year. No, we didn't. We built maybe 4 new residences and 20 short-term rentals. You know, when you got 7 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and a 1-car garage, you didn't build a residence.
And you also have to take into account that the planned unit developments are exempt. So like 67%, I believe, are business short-term rentals.
But please, understand I'm not offering my comments in terms of a policy issue as much as having data that's meaningful. You know, you can't, if you're counting cows and that deer happens to be the same color as that cow, you don't count that deer as a cow, just because it's in the pasture.
So at our last meeting, remember I gave everybody some homework? Did anybody follow through?
My dog ate it.
Because this would answer that question if you guys had done that. But we'll get to it, because obviously I have the answers. All right, so go ahead, Marcy. What else we got?
Great. Do you want to move on from the demographics then? Okay, good. We will work on getting those changes in here and get that complete picture there, with the data. And then on this next piece, what we did was we took the chapter that was done by Leah for you in Casco Township, and we kind of tried to remove the Casco Township information and just focus on South Haven City and just kind of shorten it up, while because I think the original chapter was probably like 40 pages, I think. So we tried to take out some of the information and make it a little more digestible. I don't know if we accomplished that or not, but that was what we intended to do. So, I mean, it might be worth your while if you haven't to look at that original chapter and see if there's something in there that, oh my gosh, you took that out. We should leave that in there. Because we did take the liberty to kind of really shorten it up. So I just wanted to be very upfront about that, but I wanted you to know that, and if you have something, like I said, something that you feel that needs to be in there, we can put it back in as needed. The other thing
I do have a question
Yeah.
on that. As I look through here, I'm seeing 2 or 3 pages on heat vulnerability and 8 or 10 pages of graphics on that. Now, I have never seen that as a topic of interest to our city fathers here, or ever heard it in a public discussion. I'm wondering why it's being proposed to go into our master plan.
Yeah, again, it was just kind of taking the pieces of that, and so, I mean, we could cut that back out and reduce that, if that makes more sense.
Well, it makes more sense to me. I don't know what the rest of the commission thinks
No,
about it.
Larry, I had the same opinion. Mine was even a bit broader. It's, I'm not a deep man. I'm a simple thinker. And I sit back and I try to think about how in the heck did coastal resiliency rise up to the level of being included in our master plan? And was it only because we got a grant for it? So I checked around. What other master plans are people on the coast, including coastal resiliency? Can't find any.
I would say Grand Haven, for sure, has been doing it for years.
Well, I
didn't
think
see it in
partial
this
answer
year's
to your question, Michael, is when we were, as the committee that met, I think
Right.
only once or twice, looked at that, and we felt that there needed to be something more in the master plan, talking about the coastlines and how it's been handled in the past, and the direction we felt we should go before we were able to move forward with any ordinance language. So,
I don't want to be misconstrued. I'm not saying it's not important.
okay.
I'm just questioning with the priorities that we have, and when I review the 2018, we got enough work left in the 2018 goals to last us 5 years.
I don't disagree with that at all.
So I just don't want us to pay undue attention to coastal resilience at the possible expense of taking care of those goals that we already have.
Well, your priorities may be different than mine or different than somebody else's, but I think our coastline is a priority.
I know, Larry, and you'll remember, as, I will admit I'm being impacted by our experience on this board, because we did go through the LEA training, and we took it very seriously to the point that we said, no revetments.
Yeah.
We denied the permit for a revetment, which the council overturned. I don't know. I just wonder about our resolve on this issue, so.
I know there are efforts, not just the state, but the Great Lakes are looking at coastal resilience, and they're,
I think we should. I'm not sure it should be a master plan.
I think it needs to be in the master plan so that we have some guidance, so that we can do amendments to our zoning ordinance or code of ordinances to prevent revetments, because those are short-lived or short-sighted, really is probably the better word. People incorrectly think that will be their solve their problems, but it usually doesn't, and it causes more problems.
Which is why we refused one.
Exactly, but I believe it was probably overturned because there was nothing preventing it. I can't recall off the top of my head. So that's why I would like to see it in, and I would like to see something more specific for actual resiliency, like not allowing revetments, trying to find things that provide protection to the lakefront properties and require certain setbacks and prevent bulldozing down to the beach and removing the grass that prevents the erosion, things like that. I would like to actually see something actionable and.
And we will have an additional study coming from Edgewater Resources that was a result of the other coastal management grant that the city received. So that study is on the way, and this body will be receiving a report, and you will have some additional information to consider yet
In
this
time-
spring, before the master plan is finished. Yes.
Excellent.
And Michael, I recall too that our hands were tied on many decisions because it wasn't in the master plan, or we didn't have zoning for it. So I see, I mean, I don't know the extent, that heat resiliency piece and all, but I do know that that's our goal.
Yeah, I'm probably overstating my case. I mean, frankly,
Yeah.
right, it's future thinking, we ought to do it. My concern is, I spent the last 3 days reading the 2018 plan, shaking my head, going, holy crap, why don't we look at this every year and take a look at how the decisions we have made have advanced these goals or detracted? We haven't looked at it in 5 years. And we look at it now to say, okay, I read it, and so I just get concerned about adding more and bigger scope to a master plan when we don't seem to be able to accomplish what we set out to do. But it belongs as a future consideration. It certainly does. It's important to the city and probably should be in there.
I hear what you say because the nature of just having a master plan, people think it just sits on a shelf and collects dust.
I think you'll remember when I said that.
Yes, and so I think that's true, and I guess it's up to us on how we go back and look at the master plan and talk about it as we're discussing our various issues here.
I would like to have an opportunity to review it after we get the information from Edgewater. I think we might be able to remove some things, add some things, make it shorter, and have less rewrites if we wait.
I
That would
think,
be
I
my
agree with that.
recommendation.
I agree with that. I think you'll get a lot more clarity and direction from that. And then I think too, the heat stuff in here was a lot, and focusing more on the issues at hand, which is coastal erosion, flooding, those types of things that are really, and the heat is obviously important too. Want to promote tree plantings and that kind of stuff also, but it all kind of goes together. I will say we were planning to, on these maps, when I was starting looking at it, I'm like, oh, this isn't current census data, so we could update the maps with current census data for you guys. I haven't been able to get my GIS specialist time, so I don't have any maps for you tonight, but they'll be coming here in the next couple weeks for you to start reviewing maps. But we don't have to put all of these maps in that were in that chapter. We could pull some out. So, but again, like the percent tree canopy, that's kind of, it is becoming one of those future things of in planning, and the way we develop our cities does affect how, how heat is dealt with. And we have, from climate change, we're going to see more extreme temperatures. We already have, and droughts and things like that. So I'm also doing the county's hazard mitigation plan, so all this stuff is also in that plan. So it's there too. But we can definitely, scale back some of that, and then once we get that report from Edgewater, marry them. This chapter, I think, it does get in towards the end, towards those mitigation options. It's on page 11 of that chapter. I don't know what page it is in your packet, sorry. But, so that does have some of that you're getting at, like, what do we do about this, kind of getting there. Originally, I was kind of thinking, and I don't know if maybe it was our discussions with Kelly and stuff, is that this is going to go in the exact opposite of what Michael was saying, was that we would add a goal around coastal resiliency with some of the things that Mary was saying about some actions that we should be considering as we move forward, so that when you are up against another high water event and people are trying to do things that you don't think are to the public's benefit, that you have the backing in your master plan to make those decisions and for them to hold. Because it's going to happen again. The water's going to go back up at some point, and you're going to see the same cycle. And so the goal is to have this in place so you can deal with it better in the future. So, but other than that, I think that's fine. If everybody else does everybody else agree with kind of that approach? I'm like focusing on that. I don't want to forget about you guys over here.
And then just for clarity, so that table you were talking about for mitigation is on page 28 of 38 of the
Okay.
packet.
Thanks. With that, then, survey. So basically what we did was we didn't actually have the actual survey questions from the survey that was done with the last plan. We had the results that we kind of went through and tried to reconstruct some of the questions from that. So that's where we started. And then we took out a lot of the questions that we didn't feel might be relevant anymore. There was a lot of questions on some specific developments and things like that. So we kind of pulled those. We kept some things in, but then we added the coastal resiliency questions. So because there wasn't really anything on that in the past survey. So we thought since we're doing this, we would ask some of those questions. But so any feedback is good feedback.
Could we add a question about, in coastal resiliency, add a question about concern from construction too close to the lakefront, to the high water mark? Or integrity of the beach, or of the bluff? You know, it's just North Beach, the north side has a different contour than the south side.
And so construction of homes to the ordinary high water mark, is that what you're asking?
Or something to that effect. I'm just, you know, people are putting pools and hot tubs, and some will plow down and take out the grass, the dune grass, for a clear path. And not just a small path, but I mean several feet wide. And that just doesn't seem to be the right path forward for dune protection. Oops, sorry.
I think the questions look good. I thought there were a couple of them that didn't allow for the option, like the accessory dwelling units, full support, support with restrictions, or no support. Whether there's a place for people to comment that, this is assuming people know enough about ADUs. And I mean, I think a lot of people would want to answer, I don't know.
I thought the same thing, like, I don't know enough about them to answer this question or something.
Okay, well, we could add that, and we could add an open-ended question of, you know, if.
I like the open-ended, but having done these, I know. I was looking at an open ending on the housing one, but it's like, that would be so hard to.
Actually,
Capture
you know
data.
what's made it easier is.
ChatGPT.
Yes, it has.
Did it today.
Yeah, so I mean, and we've done it on a lot of these surveys where we'll just take all the responses and put it in there and say summarize, and we spend a lot of time looking at it and going back to make sure that it's capturing it, and
It's a fabulous tool.
it does a pretty darn good job, and it saves, like you said, a lot of time of how you used to just go in like, okay, there's one comment regarding this, and it was crazy. So I'm not opposed to the open-ended questions, because with those new tools, it does get a lot easier. You know, we used to just do word clouds, and it's like, the word of would come up like huge, or, you know, something like, that's not very helpful.
Well, we do have 14 with additional comments and concerns, which hopefully will be helpful. Like I was looking at that going, oh, I could put some stuff there too.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're asking the ADU question that comes up a lot as a potential way of boosting some housing, especially when it comes to summertime help or teachers and those kinds of individuals, if people have that ability.
Yeah, I don't have any problem. I mean, again, it's not a game stopper for me. I just,
Yeah.
understanding human behavior, many of the options that we propose here are historic options that we've always thought of. When we don't have a chance for people to be innovative in their thought and saying, well, here's one you hadn't thought about. Then we tend to position ourselves to repeat what we've always done.
With regard to the ADU question, I'm concerned that it'll be misinterpreted. I didn't, a modification suggestion is that, ADUs that prohibit short-term rental and require at least a 3-month lease, because that would get to the seasonal workers, or a 1-year lease would get to long-term workers. A restriction on short-term renting, does that mean can't rent it for short-term rental? Can only rent it for 1 week on short-term rental? It's not clear what restriction means. Prohibited would be,
I just looked at that as open-ended, meaning that would allow then, we would want them with some restrictions, then it was up to us or from direction from council and what to come up with.
We still have to do the ordinance, right?
Yeah.
right.
But you're looking for more.
You might, if you
We
could
could
maybe
add
slip one
another
in and
option
see
in.
if that changes, yes. I think that would be helpful.
Prohibition.
And under the housing, when you say allow limited multifamily development in single-family residential districts, what did you mean by multifamily? Do you mean like the duplexes, triplexes, quadruplexes?
Right, just, yeah, more density and townhomes and things like that.
It may, if you have space, if you have the capacity,
Yep.
it may be helpful to specifically list them, because some people may not mind duplex, triplex, quadruplex, but they would not want a 20, 30, 40 apartment building.
Yeah. Good point.
And how does that differ, allowing more than one primary structure on a lot in a single family? Allowing, and if an ADU can be inhabited, then that's, so one primary structure, that would not be a duplex, because that's going to be one structure. So it would be allowing 2 homes on one.
Right.
Right.
We can,
I'm just thinking with the lot sizes. Some of the lot sizes, I don't know how you get,
more than,
What'd you say, Kelly?
no,
He has a question.
What was the question?
I didn't hear it. Something
about height.
Mary?
How does the height come in play?
The height?
Height?
Yes.
so we didn't ask any specific questions regarding height of any buildings in the
When
survey.
it's up there,
itself. Oh, okay, sorry.
allow additional height in residential districts to encourage the development
Right.
of affordable and workforce housing for basketball players.
And why limit it?
Yeah, I live.
No, seriously, why limit it to
So-
residential? Why not include like CBD and that type of place?
Thought there was actually a height question on
No, it's right at the,
business portion too
number 10
somewhere.
is.
it's at the bottom of the top half page, top.
Yeah, again, that would be tough for me to answer, but I think the questions are good. I think you did a really nice job here, but allowing additional height doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be for affordable and workforce housing.
And,
You can fit more renters in there, too.
Right.
yeah,
So I would like that tightened up a little bit to
and I,
say that it's intended for residential considerations, not,
and I think height, you really mean stories, because, which would automatically increase the height.
Right.
yeah.
And the thing is, depending on the type of structure, you can get attainable housing without necessarily having higher, more stories.
Right.
I have a question regarding what is your residence status? The last one is I do not live in the city limits. I don't know the purpose of that, if this is a survey just for people who live in the city.
Most of the time when we do surveys, it's usually online, a link, and they will take the survey. And even if they don't live here, some people don't understand the boundaries between cities and townships often, believe it or not.
Pay my utility bill, I must live in.
Right.
The local business owners
Well,
don't always understand.
It
Or
would be
second
great,
homeowners.
it would be great if they put, I live outside the city limits but own property in the city, and then under 3, they said, I live in Chicago, or,
And you have a way to separate all that information out then?
We can give you the results from city residents, from year-round residents, from non-city residents.
I really appreciate that, because I think if I found any difficulty in the 2018 master plan, we did a horrible job of separating out the data when it came to short-term rentals in the back in the appendix. It's not clear which group said which.
Right.
And the data was not consistent between graphs.
Yeah, because I thought about that too. So I live outside the city but own property in the city. I do not live in the city or own property, I guess.
Or I live outside the city, but I own a business in the city. Commercial business, not business short-term rental.
Got it.
Although
By
some
having a
people's-
question like that, what's your ultimate idea of the information you're mining? What do you really want to know from that one? And how does it help us?
Well, it goes to the stake. And with regard to the statement I just made, I mean, many people are concerned that business short-term rentals are commercial, but I'm thinking sales, like in the downtown district, for commercial. So, yeah, if you have a business here, you want to make sure people are coming here, families are coming here, living here, so you have a stake. So you may not be a resident, and you may not have voting rights, but you have,
Higher tax obligation?
Yeah.
And probably a lot of those people have a higher vested interest in property.
but that's what I'm saying, they have a stake, and so that's, it helps to know.
Yeah, they're going to have different priorities for land use.
Right.
And that's all right. Got to consider all the priorities, but I struggle, and I know it's just that I can't find where I highlighted it. I struggle with the template language that says that the master plan is developed for the citizens. So I would ask, who do we define as a citizen in this city? Is a business owner who lives outside the city a citizen of South Haven? not in my books. That doesn't mean I don't want their input, but their input is certainly different than what the citizenry would likely.
What about a person that grew up here, has had to move away for a job, but still owns property and plans on coming back? What would you consider them?
That's tough, Tim.
Because there's a lot of those out there.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I mean, it's a tough situation, but I think, just judging the current climate in the city, I think there's a feeling that in the last time the residents' voice was not heard enough. And to make sure that we're being clear on, what's the master plan for? Is the master plan for?
Grant money. That's what it's for. Plain and simple.
Well, Tim, we joked about this before, and since I only got one more meeting left, I can say this, if I was your consultant, excuse me, Marcy, but I would say save your money. You don't need to repeat the master plan, it's done. Now, if you want to add coastal resiliency, yeah, that's fine. So you're right, Tim. I mean, the fact that we haven't pulled it off the bookshelf in 6 years is telling. The fact that this says, the Zoning and Enabling Act says we must tie our decisions as a planning commission back to a master plan of some type, is then further along in the dialogue that we got in the master plan, the reminder that it's not legally binding. So, we need to be clear, who's the master plan for? I've always hoped that my position here would be furtherance of the idea that citizens serve the city so that the city serves the citizens. And your master plan should reflect, in my point of view, the priority should be what the residents want their city to look like. Now, we do want to make sure that our businesses have an environment they can flourish in. We want South Haven to be good for business, but we want to add that carrot as long as that business is good for South Haven. If 80% of that revenue that business produces leaves the city and never comes back, I'm not so sure that we should bend over backwards to make sure they have a nice piece of property to work with, so.
I do have a question, and maybe start with you on this, Kelly. Page 17, table 12. This one's titled Owner Occupied Housing, and it's from U.S. Census Bureau.
Where are we at, Tim?
Page 17, table 12. So it says occupied housing. And obviously, this is estimated. But if you add up the estimated housing numbers, you come up with 1,349.
Well short of some of the other numbers. I
Okay.
noticed the same thing, contradictory.
If we're going to include this table, what I'd like you to do is confer with the assessor to see how accurate this data is. Because if you look at the other number of total housing units,
Right.
which means occupied or unoccupied, we're at 3,560. So this total number is less than a third of our total housing units. And I was thinking that we were more in the 50-50 range.
So these would be the homes versus necessarily some of the apartments that are not really sold, they're rented. So that could be the,
I don't know.
You got a good question, Tim. I mean, I would wonder how the Census Bureau makes that determination.
Yeah, see, I don't know, and that's why I say maybe get with the assessor
There's nobody home.
and validate if this is a good table to have in here, or
Yeah.
we'll put our own table that's more accurate.
I had the same thought, Mike, about census data, and I don't know how the Census Bureau conducts their business, but I think they send that questionnaire to every address on record.
They do.
And if the address on record happens to really be somebody who lives in Chicago and has this property as an income property, that person is responding as if he or she is a resident and has all the interests that a full-time, year-round resident might have.
And probably the quick litmus test is the median dollars for the city, which is almost 344. I think that's close, but I don't know for sure.
And that is close. There was an article on MLive today. There's an article on MLive today where it was an interactive map, and South Haven was listed in the interactive map for affordability.
Explain what that means.
Oh, they had a bunch of communities, and they were colored by affordability, and if you hovered over it, it would tell you the median income for the community, the median income for the home, and then they had an affordability index. And we
Medium income or median value of the property?
value the property versus income. And they looked at that as the affordability of the community. And we were one of, probably the least affordable community on the lakeshore that was presented there. And one of the highest of the least affordability in the state. It's a good interactive map.
Yeah,
I'll
I
send it
saw
to you.
that. It's a repeat of the study that they did about 6 months ago. I'll find you for it, Clark. But at that time, we were second only to Ann Arbor in affordability.
Yeah.
It's expensive to live here. But we're worth it.
All right, anything else?
Just one caution, when we're asking these questions on our survey, we have to make sure that they're not so lengthy that somebody will give up in the middle. Have you ever done my chart recently and you do an e-check-in? You go, oh my God.
Yes.
And how many times have you done actually surveys that you started in good faith, say for a product or something, and then they have another screen and another screen and another screen, you just say, I don't have time for this. So
Yeah,
just
my,
caution to
my
that.
other caution is reading levels. You know, like, you just have to be very careful about the terminology you use and consider that people's reading levels are not always equal.
Seventh grade.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we could, well, there's a tool we can run on that, and then, and it does tell us the time to take the survey. So I didn't look at it before I came, but I can report back to you what it looks at, it analyzes.
This is
Analyzes
planned to
that.
be an online survey.
Correct.
Did we not in 2018 also send it out with the utility bills?
Yep, I think we did.
We had paper, recognizing that there's a significant part of our population that does not get on a computer since we are a very aged city.
Just as long as the questions actually help answer a problem.
Yeah.
They're not superfluous. Because, you know, I would have a question like Spartan or Wolverine.
Well, that's no question. You want to be successful in life or not?
And if it's an online survey, what's the method to ensure people aren't responding multiple times? I could get online and vote for all-star balloting in baseball or any sport you might name a countless number of times, right?
Yeah. We've been doing these for years. We've never found that to be an issue. We do have, there is a setting, like we can set that you can't do it from the same IP address, but sometimes that becomes problematic if somebody's like taking it at a library or something. So we don't
All in the same
always
house.
like to turn that on. We've really had no evidence of people wanting to take a
Janice said,
survey more than
Who wants
once.
to take it more than once?
I was just
Yeah,
gonna
it's
say,
more
after
like
listening to
Janice was saying, it was more about Janice saying, like, I really don't think I'm gonna get through this, and to do it again. We do this a lot.
Okay.
We've never seen, not to say that it couldn't happen, some person, but we'd probably be, you know, all the surveys, when they're taken, it's kind of date stamped, and we might be able to see that behavior in the way that the data is, but we've never seen that happen
Okay.
before. Nobody's, I guess, cared that much to take that much time. I mean, it could be different, but we've just never run into it in,
Yeah,
the
I
number of
wasn't trying to
years.
be funny. I mean,
yeah.
we're a very diverse city. We're not homogeneous by any means.
Yeah.
And I can tell you in my neighborhood, I am the Google person. Because I live in a blue-collar neighborhood that has residents that have lived here for 40 years. They're old people. They don't use computers. Hey, Mike, can you Google this for me? They can't take an online survey. They wouldn't know how to start.
That's something we'll have to discuss with the city to see if it's in the budget or not.
It wouldn't be a concern if our demographics weren't so stacked towards being a very aged town.
I agree. So,
You know, there might be some other ways to handle that, too. We might have sessions at the senior center where we have people on hand to help them do the survey,
yeah.
things like that. We can send Luke house to house.
Go with your little iPad and. No, my 90-year-old grandma loves her iPad, so I don't know. But yes, it is a concern, and, you know, and that's why we do ask how old are you? So we see if we're getting that different age group participating in the survey, and that's something that we could, you know, check as we're going on and saying like, hey, we're not reaching hardly anybody 65 and older in this survey. What can we do to try to increase that? So we can monitor that if it's not in the budget to do a paper survey, because that is what gets, sending it out and with the utility bill isn't the cost. That's pretty cheap. It's the,
Yeah.
it's tabulating it.
Yeah.
Somebody has to sit there and,
It's
you
true.
know, go through all of them that are returned and put them in the computer. So that takes time. We'd have to look to see if, and I apologize, I don't know, it's just, this was originally was gonna be Leah and switched to us, and I don't know the details, so I'll have to go back and look at that.
I really think you could handle it if you had 2 or 3 sessions at the library or in the senior
Yeah.
center, that people could come on in without complete.
Marcy, the first 5 questions are asterisked. Is that indicating they're required and you can't, the survey won't be accepted if theirs aren't responded to?
That is true.
That's not obvious.
It will be if it's online. It wouldn't be if it's a
Screen
paper.
Yeah.
There's no way you're gonna
What's that
require
part?
it if it's on paper.
It'll scream at you online.
Yeah.
May well, but yeah,
And it'll pop you back
it
up.
wasn't obvious from this, though.
Yeah, no, not the printout, it's not.
Okay.
It's just the printout from the online thing. So it was, so yeah, if we did end up doing a paper survey, we would have to make those changes to make it more obvious. Because this is just printed off of the online version.
Well, I didn't mean to raise an issue there, because I'm hearing that it may be more burdensome than valuable if we can figure out another. As long as we're taking actions to ensure that those people that aren't technologically savvy have an opportunity to contribute their input,
Right.
we can set up a booth and here, knock yourself out.
Yeah, I mean, we could set up here in City Hall for a day and say, come in between these hours on these days. There'll be a computer here. We'll show you how to get
Do
through
a
it.
short presentation at the senior center and have
There's a lot of people at the senior center every day. Go to lunch, go to play pickleball. There are a lot of people there every day.
Yeah.
a lot of old people, Bob.
Yeah, I know, like me.
Someday I hope to join.
There are computers at the library, so you could maybe do a session at the library. They do have the conference center. And are there computers available at senior services? I thought there might be, yes. There
I
are.
don't believe it. I don't think there's generally publicly available computers at the senior center. I don't think so.
Yeah, I thought there
We could
was.
certainly get the technology in there.
So,
Yeah.
so I think there's options to avoid the paper copy.
All right.
Yeah, I'll look at that with Kelly and we'll figure out a plan.
Anything else, Marcy?
I didn't have anything else tonight.
Okay.
Just make these changes, get these back to you, and from here on out, basically, just kind of our next step is, one, I'm going to get you new maps to look at, so those will be coming. And then, once we get the survey revised to how we want it, to get that live and going, and figure out, you know, how long we're going to offer that. And like I said, I think we can kind of monitor how people are responding, ages of people responding, and those different demographic things, and make sure that we're, you know, if we're only getting people who live outside the city, that's a problem. They can't, so we can monitor those things and then try to do different promotions and sessions to increase that. And then really, it probably doesn't make sense, talking to Kelly, it probably doesn't make sense for me to really come back until we have those survey results in your hands, and you can look at that feedback, and then we can jump in to the goals and objectives and say these things. Hopefully, there's something that's been completed and could come off, I don't know. And then getting those tightened up and maybe add one about the coastal issues. Sounds like the housing issues and, you know, tapping into Ryan Kilpatrick is gonna be important when we get to that point. And then, that's kind of the next steps. So you probably won't see me back here until, well, I may come, that's not true. I may come if that coastal resiliency report is presented to you guys. I'll probably come and listen to that discussion, because obviously that'll be important.
So process-wise, if indeed this is a refresh of the existing document, after we do the surveys and the neighborhood data collections and the meetings we have, that's when we go back to the 2018 plan and say which of these are still relevant based on our new data set? Is that kind of how the process
Yep.
goes?
Yeah, you can go and say, oh, we accomplished that can come off, you know, this is a new thing we need to focus on, or, you know, this isn't relevant anymore, let's get rid of it, we haven't done it yet, we're never gonna do it, why keep it, get rid of it, this is something that needs to be here, and refresh those up and get those.
Not as a planning commissioner, but as a citizen, resident, whatever term we're using these
Sure.
days. In my dreams, I'd really love to have the council take a look at the 2018 plan and grade themselves on how well we've accomplished those goals. Where do we sit? You know, use the typical corporate green, yellow, red.
Yeah, and, you know, and that's actually, you know, most communities don't look at their plan until it's time for the 5-year update.
Right.
But really should be looking at it yearly, and some kind of measurement like that is a good tool to go forward.
And I'm not trying to be Pollyannish here. I understand that. That's true, and a lot of businesses too. We do our strategic plan, and there it sits.
Yeah.
And we do it for the same reason, for governance. But there's also a missed opportunity if we don't use it. You know, we had a 2018 plan. I don't know. We'll just see how it flows out. I think, and I know my opinion is not shared by everybody here, and that's fine. That's why we have diversity on our planning commission. But I think there's been a pretty seismic shift in public attitudes in this city based on our land use. So I just want to make sure that they hear it.
And for housing, I think some of that could fall under the attached urban housing that starts on page 42 of the 2018 master plan.
And this will identify too by geography, right? Some of the survey data will we break it out by ward?
Of the
Survey data?
respondents?
Even the Census Bureau recognized that we really are two separate communities in the city of South Haven.
We did not in the survey ask where people are where
I
they're
mean, we're
living.
two
Yeah, what
separate.
are you talking about?
The income level when you cross the river goes like this compared to the south side. The average house price, the median incomes of the residents. It's like George told us when we were on the planning commission, one of the best things he ever said. It really depends what you see when you look out your window. And, you know, I have fought for years, and you guys have heard me. My neighborhood is way different than yours. And we can't just plan things homogenously that says this covers our whole city. No, what might be appropriate in Ward 1 may not be appropriate in Ward 2. So having that separation of data at least gives you insight into whether there is a different sense of what character and tradition is and how we plan.
So, I mean, are you like proposing we add a question that if you live in the city, what ward do you live in?
No.
I don't want to make it more difficult, but I think that might, we're going to do the in-person interviews by ward, right? I see that as part of the process I thought I read. We're going to do what we've done before,
Don't,
not going to hold meetings with the residents?
there's going to be a meeting, I don't think it was going to be by wards. We talked about having an open house.
Right, I think the level of public input is much less than if we were rewriting the master plan. This is an update, this
So
isn't
just-
a full-blown.
Just let me be a jerk here, then
You can be a
give me the
jerk, Mike.
security that you're also gonna have that same rule for the DDA, for the Chamber of Commerce, for the business interest. We're gonna cut back on their input as well.
Correct. I think we are doing a master plan update, not a master plan rewrite. I think we will have public input opportunity, but it won't be on the same level that the 2018 plan was.
Understood, understood. And I'm being mindful of politics here, and we probably shouldn't be thinking that way, but the politics say that the residents absolutely need to see that their input has taken priority over the downtown business developments, or the downtown retail shops, whatever. We live here.
I understand that.
Mike, I think you were referring to income differences, right?
Yep.
And I would say that zoning helps perpetuate that.
I couldn't agree more.
And what you're gonna find is maybe younger people move to the part of town where the housing is less
Absolutely,
expensive.
Tim.
And after a period of time, they sell that home and move to a different part of town.
Absolutely.
And that's just part of the general makeup. None of it's ever going to be equal.
Absolutely, Tim, I don't disagree, but you just defined exactly the problem I'm talking about.
Is it a problem?
I'm saying that our current land use does not allow that historic tradition of being able to buy a starter house and move up in this town as your income increases. Because we've seen that our income does not increase as residents in this town. We've seen that actually that's the group that's been disproportionately harmed by our land use and zoning ordinances, that they now have to move out to the township because they can't. They can't, you know.
Or is it a fiat currency question?
Well, there's so many forces at work here, Tim. But
Yeah,
as a city commission, we can't control the national forces. We can't control all those. We've got to work with what factors we can control. And I think it's incredibly important for our master plan to protect those neighborhoods where young people can start.
Or an annex part of the township? Okay,
Yeah.
I've said it again.
Charter townships can't be annexed, right?
Yes, you can.
No, we just actually did one not too long ago. But, all right, thank you, Marcy.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate everybody's input and time, and we'll be back. Thanks.
All right. Kelly, what do we got going on next time?
The next meeting will be May 9th. We're on the second Thursday of the month again. I am anticipating not a master plan workshop. I do think that we will have a regular meeting and a zoning workshop in May.
Okay. Anything else?
Not today.
All right. Bob,
Yes, sir.
any comment?
Kind of trivial, but I was not here in March, as you might have noticed. But I made a point to listen to the meeting. I listened to every minute of it, and we all probably need to be more careful about speaking into the microphone, because a listener won't hear very much of what we're saying, so.
He's true. People text me during the meetings and say, tell him to speak up. So my only comment is, thank you, this was very interesting. And number two, good luck, Luke, on your upcoming marathon.
When is it? Chicago? No.
All right.
May 5th in Kalamazoo. Does it go near the Millwood neighborhood still? Okay. I bet it does, and if so, I'll see you there. I'll go to Anna's house and we'll wave.
It's going to be about 26 miles.
I'm listening. I'm listening and listening to the comments. I'm listening to what's being presented, and just basically soaking it up. And I'm on a steep learning curve. So I'm really, it's to me, new to this process. being new on the Planning Commission board, I just, when I get ready to ask a question, it'll be because I've really taken in enough and I want to have more understanding. So right now, I'm going to continue to listen and learn, and I value what you all have to say. I'm impressed with your knowledge and your experience in this area and the things that you challenge. You point out, in what's presented for clarity, stating your own opinion about things based on what you know. So I feel good about it. Thank you.
Just thank you, staff and Marcy, for all the work that was done, and Brad, staffish. And that was it. Done.
Sure, Larry?
Eddie, I think we're all on a learning
Mike.
curve.
Mike.
Yeah, but you're more at the crest of that curve, and I'm still right there. So,
Yeah, I think this has been a good discussion tonight. And
Yes.
on a lot of topics, so thank you all.
And I do appreciate the work that staff and Brad and Marcy have put into this. It's a big deal. But I also appreciate all the various comments from all the other commissioners.
I echo the thanks for staff and Marcy and Brad and everybody for all the information today. I just want to let people know that Monday, April 15th, the City Council will be identifying their fiscal year 24-25 priorities, so please come out. And there actually is, as I had indicated, a Great Lakes Coastal Resilience Study going on now. There's WebEx's, each state is hosting one, and there will be information coming from that. But I know not in time. It's a 5-year process. But there is a lot of information out there about coastal resilience. So I'm looking forward to updating our master plan to help our beaches, our lakefront. Thank you.
I will say thank you as well. I do think it was a good meeting. I love the information that was put together, and I love the exchange of information. I forgot what else I was going to say, but it was really important, so I'll give you a call when it comes around. But Eddie, to your point, I do want to echo what Larry said. When I first started, I had no idea. I was looking back, I'll complete 2 terms. And it's personal opinion, but I think 2 terms is long enough for any commissioner to sit. And I mean no disrespect for those of you that have been longtime members. But I look at what I knew when we were considering in my first weeks, the first master plan I was involved with, and the care that we're taking here. And it gives me a great deal of confidence in our ability to get our job done, so.
and I do see the importance. I mean, it doesn't intimidate me or scare me. Actually, it's very motivating, and my curiosity is growing, and certainly want to get more and more involved.
Yeah, there's always something more to learn.
Absolutely.
Larry and Tim teach me every week, so.
Thank you.
And, well, the other thing I did want to mention, and this could probably be for the TV audience, and won't affect any of you, it might affect some people out in the audience. Michigan State Extension Service is offering a workshop on affordable housing, but you have to be careful to read who's invited. It's for city officials and staff. It's not an open forum on affordable housing. It's going to be a working session where we bring our master plans, we bring our zoning maps and our zoning charts, and we will be working with other commissioners from other cities and other municipalities. So if you've signed up for this thinking that you're going to come and be able to just address your point of view on affordable housing, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a rather closely facilitated, pointed at city officials and their staff. So,
Are you attending?
yes. If they get it in before, it will be before the end of my term.
Okay, all right.
April 23rd, I think it is.
Okay,
If not, Tim, I won't listen while I'm there.
okay, very good. So, Kelly, what's the last ad hoc committee that we have active?
That would be the coastal,
Okay, and who's on this committee?
oh,
You know off the top
I
of your head?
had that a couple of meetings ago, and Amy and
Am I all that's left?
I think, no, I believe we had
There's at least one vacancy.
YG was on the committee, and I don't remember the third, I apologize.
Okay. So I think we still have to appoint one, maybe two people to that, correct?
Yes. And I will find the third maybe quickly. No, not quickly enough.
Okay.
So I'll have to find that again for you.
Mary, you're pretty in tune with the coastal, right? I mean, you seem to take an interest in it. Would you like to be on that committee?
I would welcome the opportunity.
Okay. So, and then who would be a second one? Is Amy?
Was it Larry? Larry.
Larry.
It was Larry.
You still wanna, you okay with that for now? Okay. I just wanna make sure we got a full committee. If you have to do something in the meantime with this master plan,
Okay.
okay? All right. Couple things been in the news lately, and they're kind of related to planning. And one is power. And I don't know if you saw the data center that's being proposed in, was it Dwajak?
Berrien County.
Berrien County.
Berrien Springs.
It's like 15% of their energy requirement. Very high.
We have an
So,
expert in the audience that can explain.
You know, we own our own grid. We purchase power. And a place like that will actually drive up our power prices. So I think we need to at least have something in our planning that says we're gonna pay attention to this and fight for reduced rates if something like that comes along. And then the second one, and this one I find amazing. You hear all these stories about non-US citizens squatting in people's homes. And I look across the river at night and I see maybe 2 homes with lights on the north side. That's almost ripe for it. So I didn't know, Kelly, have you talked with staff? Are we up to speed with our language regarding that type of activity and protecting the homes in the city from? Me. Yeah.
In your spare time.
Well,
If
it
not, I
seems
think
to
this
be
should be
more
part
a
of our
police
planning as well.
issue.
That's a good issue.
You know, if unauthorized access to someone's home is a police issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm not sure what the land use component of that is that you're thinking of.
Well, I just want to make sure we have the right language where somebody can't go in there and stay a long time and they wind up homeowners in court for a long time where they evict them right
I
away.
thought that the police, you could, if you're from out of town and your home is vacated for a long time, you could fill out a form, and the police department has that form, and they will do occasional checks
Yep.
around the house.
I
Or
think to
they-
Tim's point, though,
perimeter.
Perimeter.
That's
I
not
think
through
to
the
Tim's
building
point, what I'm
department.
hearing is,
Right.
That's preemptive. I'm talking, let's say it happens.
yeah, and it's happening in increasing numbers than when we wrote that ordinance back then.
Right.
I'll share a quick story. I took,
You will.
it's all right.
How much
Tim.
time do you need for that one?
I get 5 minutes. I'm a private citizen now.
No, that period's passed.
Yeah, thank you.
One of our well-known person that unfortunately has been displaced out of their home. I had the opportunity to give her a ride home one of the really cold days where the buses weren't running. And she's actually squatting in one of our businesses. It's an empty business building, and she's got her 2 dogs and her cats. And she has jimmied the back door open, and that's where she's been living from. It's like, I feel so bad for her, but it's like, wee.
I don't know whether this counts as squatting, but the police were called to a property on North Shore Drive today.
Really?
Because there was a very significant sized tent that had been erected on the beach, and people were in there. Now, whether they're just today, overnight, 2 nights, I don't know, but the homeowner called the police came and they packed them up and off they went. So that's private property, right down to the water, right? So I guess that's squatting, and
No, my point is if we need to do some additional work as planning commission to tighten something like that up, then let us know at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
My guess it will be under the code of ordinance under trespass.
Because I would think we could fast track that one.
I think it's gonna come
That's
under the code
A
of ordinance.
council issue.
That's a good idea, Tim.
All right. What else was there? Oh, I had written here, Mike Google. Is your home zoned to be a research center?
You know, I have property rights. It's not only as a research center, I serve drinks.
Very good.
At no charge.
All right, and with that, I will declare this workshop adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.